Hi, I'm Richard.
And I'm Christy.
And welcome back to our YouTube channel,
Fulfill the Game of Life. Today we are going to continue the Game of Life series, and today we are going to walk through assets and show you how to evaluate your own spending habits.
That's right. One of the most important, if not the most important concept to understand financially in order to enable early retirement is understanding when you spend money, are you buying an asset or a liability?
But before we get going, we would like to ask you to hit that subscribe button and go ahead and give us a thumbs up.
So, let's start understanding assets.
We are guessing you've heard the word, but maybe have not fully registered how critical it is on your path to early retirement.
We want to start by defining assets in its simplest terms. You go through classes, things get really complex, but we want to break this down in a really simple sentence. An asset is something that you own today that will actually gain value.
Another way of saying it, would someone pay you more for something you own today than what you paid for it?
Yeah, now that's a pretty clear, simple definition. And let me say it again. Would someone pay you more for what you're selling them than you paid for it originally? You need to go no further than that to know if you're making a good purchasing decision.
We are trying to give you a very clear criteria that will help you make better decisions.
So, in this video, we're going to walk down the path to assessing your own purchasing habits historically, and then we're going to start by asking you to look at something you own and ask yourself, would someone pay me more than I paid?
So let's start. If you're watching this video from your phone, your TV, or your computer, would anyone pay you more for that device than what you paid for it?
Now, if you've never really thought about it that way, and you're asking yourself right now, would someone pay me more for my phone, my computer, my laptop, or my television than I paid for it originally? I've got bad news. The answer is
no. Any device that you are watching this video on is not an asset. And the moment you purchased that device, it was worth less to sell it used.
So, next, here's another really good way to look at your world practically. I want you to stand in front of the mirror, and I want you to look at your hands, I want you to look at your arms, I want you to look at your necklace, I want you to look at your earrings, your watch, your shoes, your shirt. Would anyone pay you more than you paid for them originally?
And again, the answer is no.
Now, take a walk through your home. Stand up, physically stop at the moment that you're standing right now. Stop, look around where you're at in your own home, and even walk from room to room and ask yourself, look at your furniture, look at your knickknacks, look at your oven, look at your refrigerator, look at your washer and dryer, look at your dishes and your dishwasher. Would someone pay you more for any of those things than you paid for them originally?
And it's, of course not, they wouldn't.
So again, one more practical look to really drive home the point. Walk out of your house right now and look at your car. Would someone pay you more for your car than you paid for it originally?
Probably not. So
you're probably starting to connect the dots right now. Almost nothing that people buy to live their daily lives are assets.
None of them make money for you.
So look, it is worth clarifying that you do technically still own an asset with your refrigerator because it holds some value, but financial independence can only be achieved by owning assets that make money, and your refrigerator doesn't make money.
Which is why we chose our definition of an asset.
Maybe we actually should call it a money-making asset instead of just an asset to get the financial people off our backs.
For example, if you paid $20,000 for a car and could sell it for $10,000, you have a $10,000 asset.
Right. You still have $10,000 you could get, but it's not making you money. It's actually losing value. But to achieve financial independence, will that car pay your electricity bill?
Of course not.
So we want you to stop and really reflect on what we're asking you to think about.
How many assets do you own? Are you surprised? Is it more than you thought, or is it less, or do you have any?
So what does make money? Well, good news and bad news. It's a pretty short list, so you don't have a whole lot to remember.
As a general rule, the vast majority of assets in the world can be generally summarized into a few buckets.
Yep. Number one, real estate. Land will gain value, but land with property on it, so it's a rental property, or it's even your own home, will gain value. So number one is real estate.
Number two, stocks. I'm sure we are all familiar with the word, but the simple definition is you become a part owner of the company whose stock you bought. When they make money, you make money.
Third, precious metals. But this one can be a little bit tricky, actually. Actual gold and silver, platinum, those types of things, yes, they'll gain value over time. But what people seem to get confused with is when it's converted to jewelry, you're paying a premium, and you'd kind of call it a premium for craftsmanship because people make beautiful jewelry. But here's the problem. Craftsmanship marks the price up so much that it never becomes an asset, or almost never becomes an asset again. If you're going to invest in precious metals, you're going to have to buy the bar stock. Because if you buy a gold ring today that's very ornamental, when you go to sell it, you're going to have to sell it for a third of what you bought it if you're lucky.
Fourth, the new precious metal, if you will, is cryptocurrencies. They have similar monetary characteristics as gold and silver and have provided holders significant returns for almost a decade, but they are a bumpy ride.
Yes, we've had people start asking me, hey, just tell me how to do it, right? And we've really not gone there yet. We've been laying the groundwork so you understand the psychology of what goes on when you think through how you're going to do this. But we will tell you, cryptocurrencies for the last year is a significant amount of our portfolio. We frankly had retirement planned out without cryptocurrencies, but we'll tell you, we have had fantastic returns over the last year with cryptocurrencies, and we will do a video specifically on cryptocurrencies so you understand it a little better, and then all the words that are basically French to you guys, if you're not into this at all, become a little, we'll try to be really plain and clear when we explain it. So moving on to number 5. This one is really difficult to assess sometimes because people give value to things that are more important to them than to other people. So art and collectibles can be an asset. Let's face it, if you own the Mona Lisa and you decided to sell it, you wouldn't have to work for the rest of your life. But let's face it, the picture from your grandmother's grandmother hanging on the wall is probably only valuable to you. Now look, we probably, most of us might have a collectible laying around the house because people do find little things really interesting if you can find the right audience. And with the internet, sometimes finding the right audience is not that big a deal, but you know, some people collect Barbies and Beanie Babies, or maybe you got an old motorcycle, or maybe you got old music, but it really comes down to this: are you willing to sell it in order to pay your bills?
We have all watched at least one episode of that show. I think it's called What's It Worth, where someone brings a piece of rare china and it actually ends up being $20,000.
Yeah, it's funny to watch because they go in shock, right? And by the way, I would too. I would love to show up with a cup and someone tell me, hey, man, that's worth $20,000. It'd be awesome. But you can tell just by their reaction alone, they didn't make the investment consciously. They weren't really aware when they bought it that it was really worth, or if it was passed down through the family, that it's really worth that much money. So it wasn't a conscious decision. They're just fortunate. You simply won't retire early by being fortunate. You retire early by being targeted decision makers to move yourself forward.
And let's face it, even if you own that rare piece of china, do you really want to sell it to pay your rent? Probably not. It's probably a family heirloom.
Are there other types of assets? Well, yes, particularly one. A business. If you own a business, well, it obviously makes money. But here's the challenge. Unless that business is completely self-sustaining with a complete management team, You can't retire early because you're running it. It takes your time.
Right, unless you build it up and sell it, and then take that money and invest it in one or more of the previously mentioned assets.
Absolutely. So let's take a moment to summarize. How many things do you own that are gaining value? How many assets do you have?
Is it more than you thought it was going to be? Is it less than you thought? Or do you really even actually own an asset?
In America, the number one asset, and typically the only major asset that people own, is their home. And as you'll see in the next video, not very many people own their home. You actually rent it from the bank every month.
Right, and so keep in mind, if you're renting, it is likely when you walk around your house, almost nothing that you own makes money for you.
Now look, it is important to say, yes, we all have our passions, and that we're all willing to spend money on those passions. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying life.
Like this pool behind us. We built it about 5 years ago, and would you think that this is an asset?
It's true that it would increase the value of our home, but it won't increase the value of the home nearly as much as we paid to have it built. So no, it's not an asset.
But do we love spending time in the pool? Absolutely. Did we build it knowing we were trading future working days of our life? Yes. Would we build it again? Absolutely, yes.
But make no mistake, this was not an asset for us. So again, a quick review, and I know we're asking the same thing over and over, but you must internalize, because what you own today is a reflection of your financial decisions. And if you're 20 years old watching this, that's okay. If you're 50 years old watching this and the only thing you own is your home, or you're renting your home, you've been a victim of the lack of financial education that's kind of built into our society.
So the next time you go to make a purchase, ask yourself, is this going to make me money?
And we told you, really simply, you can pretty much put it in a few buckets. You figure out how to buy real estate, you figure out how to buy stocks, maybe bonds, precious metals, collectibles. And that's almost all you have, and cryptocurrency.
Right, let's not forget that. Your life would simply transform over a decade. You might not always have the newest phone, but your path to early retirement will become clearer every month.
So after you're watching this, what we're really hoping it does with you or for you is the next time you're being marketed to, the next time you're thinking about that next big purchase, you're comparing in your mind, will this make me money? And here's a simple way to look at it. If you have the iPhone or a new phone in your hand that cost you $1,000, the next new one is coming out and you're looking at that. If you could decide to hold that phone almost practically until it dies, but every year put $1,000 instead of into a new phone, you bought a share or two of Apple stock, your entire life would transform over just a matter of a decade. So look, we're gonna wrap up this video, and we're hoping you're beginning to recognize how to spend money that secures your independent future.
We hope you enjoyed the content, and we hope that we are showing you a real path to financial security.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.
And unless you want to work until you're 67 years old, learn to see assets and make buying them your priority.